welcome back to PSA TV. This is the Wake Up Call here, and as promised, I've got on the line this morning Head of Fixing T&T, Mr. Kirk Waithe. Good morning to you, Mr. Kirk Waithe.
Good morning, Christy, and if we could leave out the Mr., I'd appreciate that. It's Mr. Kirk. Good morning to you, good morning to your listeners and viewers in Trinidad and Tobago and around the world.
How are you this morning?
Outstanding, but there's good news. I'll get better.
Of course, of
How
course.
Are you?
There is always hope. I'm fine. Really blessed to be here this morning. So you've recently started an initiative called Hire One More Now. It's something very creative, something very unique. Just tell me a little bit about, first of all, what is the initiative about?
There's a saying, and I'll paraphrase here. Wouldn't it be great if instead of allegiance to the bottom line, we stand with those who line the bottom? I think that was our father Greg of Homeboy Industries that said that some time ago. Hashtag Hire One More Now is a campaign specifically targeted towards young people who might be considered at risk because of the communities in which they live. So it started out as an anti-crime initiative to be used as an anti-crime tool, and but out of it there can be so much more. Stimulating employment necessarily grows an economy. Reducing crime positively impacts an economy. So it is an initiative target where the objective is to achieve all of the aforementioned.
Mm-hmm. And what would have inspired you to do something like this?
From personal experience, we've for years very quietly I've done and been doing work in some impoverished communities, more specifically Beetham Gardens. Years ago, I did work with a gentleman named Richard Barker, better known as Brother B, in the prisons of Trinidad and Tobago. So every Tuesday and Thursday we'd go to Remand Yard and then and Golden Grove, and once a month we'd go down to Carrera. So and from as far back as then, we've been seeking to give opportunities to people from, as I said, impoverished communities to which stigmas are attached. And let me say this: in those communities, they're good people, like every community, just like a Goodwood Park or a Valsane or a Palmist. Beetham, Sealots, and Laventil would have some bad apples, but for the most part, they're really good people who want to do the right thing, who are interested in finding ways to uplift themselves. So we started providing opportunities where we can to do that, and our experience has been, for the most part, a positive one. It doesn't always work out, but for the most part, it has been a positive one, where young people, some of whom might have been involved in some level of illegal activity, most who have not, we've given an opportunity, provided an opportunity and care to get a job, to stay on the right path, and 80-90% of the time it works out.
Yeah, and I mean, this is something that is needed direly, because we've seen over time the continuous number of retrenchments, of dismissals. So this is something that, it will go a long way, not just for youths, but I can also see, various companies getting on board with you. Has various companies been going on board with you as yet?
Well, yeah, there are companies that have agreed to get on board right now. What we're doing, remember, the initiative was literally only launched maybe 3 or 4 days ago.
Yeah.
Well, the campaign, not the initiative. It's a campaign. And so Ansa Motors has committed to, Ansa Motors, Toyota Trinidad and Tobago Limited, companies like Lewis Appliances, KCL Capital Market Brokers, Aspire Fund Management Group, and TAS Automotive. So from the big to the small to the medium,
yeah,
have the response has been encouraging from corporate Trinidad and Tobago. We're starting to receive more and more applications now, resumes, and so on via the hire one more now at gmail.com. So we're putting it together. We have a team, a cohesive team now together to collate all of the information, so then we can start disseminating the applications that we receive, put them out and send them to the various organizations, and we expect that this will grow, that it will grow. There is only upside to creating employment and giving people opportunities.
Now, I understand that your campaign has been endorsed by the TTPS.
Yes, and we are very grateful for that, and we were heartened by the commissioner's comments. The commissioner was spot on when he said that the difference in many cases between a life with a wholesome career and a life of crime is opportunity. Is just an opportunity provided.
Yeah. Now, I know like you rightly said, your campaign did not start off initially as a labor campaign. It started off as something for the at-risk youth. Do you think that there's a job shortage, or is it that we don't often hear the cries of young people, and we merely see them as people who just want, probably a handout? What do you think?
Well, the people, when I go into, let's say, Beetham Gardens, for example, nobody ever asks me for $1. Nobody asks me for a drink. Nobody asks me for a cigarette. They say, Kirk, we want a job. Can you get us a job? And people are looking for a hand up, not a handout. So we're appealing to corporate Trinidad and Tobago. We're saying, look, by collectively extending by extending our collective arms, we can provide that hand up. In so doing, we do it effectively. We will alleviate our crime situation. That would then extend to growing the economy, attracting investment. Crime was listed in the most recent IMF report as an area that needs to be urgently addressed if we are to achieve sustainable growth, return to sustainable growth. So this is not all altruism from the business community. This is about us. This will it positively impacts my business when crime is reduced. It positively impacts my business when we bring young, bright people in and they contribute.
And I mean, sometimes you look at youths today and you often wonder if they are motivated, because and they're easily led astray. Is it that we lack the motivation to inspire these younger kids to push forward, stay on the positive path,
Well, my generation has to take responsibility for where this country is today. Let me say this first. There's a lot to celebrate about Trinidad and Tobago. I believe that Trinidad and Tobago possesses all of the ingredients necessary to create a society that the world would want to model. Our ethnic, our religious, and our cultural diversity we're full of creativity and intelligence. You see that in many spheres throughout the year with various festivals and so on. We've been blessed with natural resources that have over the years provided us with an abundance of financial resources, which, for the most part, have been wasted. I coined a phrase years ago which simply says, "We're too rich to be so poor," and that so very much applies to Trinidad and Tobago. Trinidad and Tobago was and will be for a long time a very wealthy country, among the wealthiest in the Western Hemisphere. All of our social issues are symptomatic of poor economies. Our functional illiteracy rate is extraordinarily high. Our untenable crime situation. We've asked, why in a country as rich as Trinidad and Tobago can we go to a hospital and not be guaranteed a bed? Why is our public transportation system in an absolute mess, totally unreliable? But all of these things can be fixed. The upside is, look, we have a functional democracy. That is a lot to celebrate. We've had systems put in place with respect to education. We need to further develop. We need to make our education system now relevant. And by relevant, I mean in this day and age, academics is far from the top of the list when it comes to education. There's skills, there's information technology, there are many different areas we should be focusing on, including entrepreneurship. And in the areas which we target, the entrepreneurial spirit in these impoverished and sometimes high-risk areas needs to be harnessed, because that entrepreneurial spirit is there. We have to find creative ways to tap into that. We have to, I think we need to move from a place where entrepreneurship is grown from lending. We need to move from that place to where entrepreneurship is grown from equity. So we need to develop private equity funds and things like that. There is immense potential. This country can become one that the world will want to model.
But why do you think we aren't as great, or we aren't as big as we ought to be? What do you think
Corruption
keeps
and
us back?
mismanagement. Corruption and mismanagement. Corruption, for me, is the ultimate evil. Corruption is the reason our crime situation is where it is. Corruption is the reason our healthcare system is where it is, our education system. Corruption is the ultimate evil. It has to be effectively dealt with. We in a place now, for example, procurement, let's take the issue of procurement legislation. That battle has been going on for 16 or 17 years. And I'll say without fear of contradiction that there is none among the 41 that sit in the lower house in the parliament that is genuinely interested in the implementation of legislation to effectively govern procurement. I'll also say that there is none among the 41 that sit in the lower house that has genuine interest in legislation that will effectively govern political campaign and party financing. And these two issues go to the heart of corruption. So when in the absence of political campaign financing, you have people basically buying politicians and therefore ultimately government, buying influence, seeking their own interest. So we end up with many square pegs in round holes, because the payback in many cases, yes, is contracts that are contract awards that are flawed, money being passed. In many cases as well, it is people being placed in positions that they have no business being in, because they simply lack the qualification and the wherewithal to perform in those positions. We need to get that legislative infrastructure right.
As we approach Independence Day, when you look at the way in which Trinidad and Tobago is, are you happy with where we are today?
Absolutely not. As I said, look, there is a lot to celebrate, and people must not underestimate the value of a functional democracy. So we do have a lot to celebrate. We live, which again is why we can be a model to the world. Just about all of us, we celebrate one another's religious and cultural holidays and experiences. That is a beautiful thing. Am I happy with where Trinidad and Tobago should be today? Absolutely not. We shouldn't be looking at Singapore and to see what they're doing. Singapore should be looking here to say, listen, we need to do what those folks are doing so that we can become like those folks. We should have been there a long time ago. We're not. Can we get there? Absolutely. And can we get there fairly quickly? Yes, we can. So the answer is no. I'm not at all happy with where Trinidad and Tobago is today. We should have been much further along. Last night, my daughter left to go run around the savannah, and she left a bit late from where we lived. So she got to the savannah. When she got there, it started raining, so she couldn't run. By the time the rain stopped, it was dark. So she said, you know what? I'm not going to run in the dark. We need to change that. Mm-hmm. We need to change that. We need to be able to walk and go anywhere in Trinidad and Tobago at any time of day or night, and we can do it. Part of getting that done, again, which is in part why we launched the hashtag Hire One More Now initiative, is effectively addressing our crime situation. This is one way of doing it. Providing opportunities, attracting people who might be at the greatest risk of getting into a life of crime, or even those who are presently in a life of crime, attracting them away from that. What this will do is effectively shrink the pool from which gang leaders can fish.
Yeah. I mean, I know a lot of times people always draw the linkage between unemployment or poverty and crime, and I think what you're saying is actually very interesting to note that you've done something mainly targeted towards the at-risk youth, and this has now evolved into something bigger and something actually better, which sets precedence for, the average person to come on board, even private sectors. Have you approached private sectors as yet?
No, yes, as I said, we've been talking to companies, and it's a lot of it'll be a lot of phone work. So, for example, Answer Motors, Jerome Board has been a friend for a long time. He said, yes, Kirk, no problem, Answer will be on board. Ryan Latchu at Toyota, Ricky Waithe, my brother at Tash Automotive, Kerwin Valley at KCL Capital Market Brokers, Dane Lewis at Lewis Appliances, and as I said, that will continue to grow. Our objective, or our goal, is within the first month to have secured at least 100 jobs for persons who are seeking sustainable employment. The other thing with this, the more people that we get involved, get engaged, create sustainable employment for in the private sector, the fewer the number that depends on the government, and that is a good thing. As I said, the step after this is to begin harnessing the entrepreneurial spirit that is so very present in many of these communities.
Mm-hmm. So describe to me the actual process. So the person sends in their resume to hireonemorenow@gmail.com.
Right.
And then from there, what's the process?
Well, let me say this as well. Probably within the next 24 to 48 hours as well, we will provide a mobile number where we can be reached via WhatsApp, so the information can be sent that way as well. Because not everyone, especially in the communities that we're targeting, have access to email and so on. But most people have a smartphone, so they can send the information via WhatsApp. The information we're requesting, a resume/bio. Yeah. Basically, that would include your name, your address, your level of education, your work experience. We would also want to, if people care to share, their social media handles, so their Facebook name, their Instagram handle, things like that. So we could learn as much as possible about you. We would a certificate of character is a requirement, and even if you have a certificate of character, mm-hmm. and there is some history, even if you've been previously charged or convicted, still get in touch with us. We'll discuss it. The police has has partnered. We would get more information so that we can better inform the prospective employer. And of course, national photo ID, either a copy of your passport, bio page, your driver's permit, or your national ID card.
And what kind of jobs are available with this campaign?
Whatever people deem they're qualified for. I mean, we've gotten applications where people have numerous passes, and that's why we're talking to the private sector across the board. If people have specific skills, the thing is to get people sustainably employed. So again, we're speaking with some banks, we're speaking with auto dealerships, we're speaking with capital investment market brokers.
Is it like a recruitment drive in a sense?
It's much more than that. It's not a recruitment drive. It is a drive to create sustainable employment for as many young people, particularly those who live in communities that are considered at risk.
And how has feedback been thus far from the youths?
From where?
From youths.
Good. As I said, we've been getting the resumes coming in. We've been getting people who know me personally from those areas have been calling to say, Kirk, we have some folks there. What we're attempting to do is identify one or two persons in the various communities who can be the facilitators, so that the people who are interested in sustainable employment can then go to these people, get them their information. They can, make sure that everybody has brought the right information, and then have that sent on to us.
All right. Your closing comments before we wrap things up.
That Trinidad and Tobago is a spectacular place with potential that is difficult to even imagine. I'd say the sky is the limit, but for Trinidad and Tobago, there is no limit. And for a long time, it is frustrating to me that we've not realized that potential. As I said, we're too rich to be so poor. But we can collectively fix that, turn it around, get Trinidad and Tobago on the path to become the society which I believe we can become, that the world would want to model.
All right, so there we go. Thank you so much for sharing that initiative. And of course, we'll be following up with you as often as as things progress with you and your campaign, and also congratulations to you.
Thank you very much. We look forward to sharing the progress, to reporting.
Yes.
To reporting to you and the country at large.
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Waithe.
You're welcome.
Kirk, is it?
Kirk, yes.
Thank
please.
you so much.
Thank you. Okay. Bye.
All right, so there we have it. A new initiative launched there by the head of Fixing TNT, Mr. Kirk Waithe, hashtag Hire 11 Now. And of course, it comes on the heels as we've recently seen an increased number of retrenchments, dismissals, and also Trinidad and Tobago stands to be one of the countries with a very high unemployment rate. Just to reiterate there what Kirk was saying, the initiative is relatively new. 4 days it was launched. And it's meant to improve the lives of young men and women who are seeking an opportunity for which they can transform their lives, get a job at the end of the day. So it's just about news time. We're going to head to news right now and come back with more. Stay with us.